You want to talk about your man Andre?
Let's do it.
Okay. We doing a track by track review of the album?
No. No. Absolutely not.
No, it's listen. Good for him for making an album. As far as I'm concerned, it sounds like the kind of music you hear when you get a massage.
That's exactly what it is.
So, you know, cool. Maybe next time I get a massage, the massage therapist will have Andre playing, get his streams up. But like that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're here to talk about today. He put out a woodwind jazz album.
I like the album
Oh, there you go.
and what it represents. Hot take.
Okay.
This is one of the most important pieces of art to come from hip hop in a very long time.
You're gonna have to walk me through this
That's
argument
okay.
because I'm a little lost.
That's
but
okay.
Let's hear it.
That's okay. Hip hop needed to be told to slow down from and this needed to come from hip hop to do it. I think I want to explain this better as we get through. Did you watch the GQ interview?
I skimmed it and I read the actual article and listen, I got a lot going on, man.
I feel you. Man, the interview was so good. Watched it twice. So good.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
like 30 minutes, right?
I watched it once by myself and I watched it again with my wife because
there you go.
Those are things that we talk about. Just from like for a long time, we've seen Andre just kind of like figure out his process and his place.
Yeah.
And he talked about that point where Tyler was like encouraging him he's in the studio with Tyler. And Tyler was like, well, you have to show us, how to do it in when we get older. And I think what Tyler failed to realize is that he is showing you how to do it when you get older, because you might hit a phase where you don't want to rap, where you want to be artistic and you want to be creative and maybe everything. God, when we talk about this all the time, when we talk about content and social media and all this stuff, like everything is so flat. To go outside of the box and essentially rage against the machine where everything points to somebody like Andre 3000, one half of one of the most important groups in hip hop history, quite possibly the best group in hip hop history, to say, I don't want that life, to reject it, and then to come back, even while having a top 3 verse of the year with scientists and engineers. That was the other verse. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, like my top 3 verses of the year. That was the other one that I couldn't think of the name of it. And then what this album is, this is like late at night, unplug, get some work done. Everything is just so go, 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 go. Like this album forces you to stop and be present. And I think because not even just hip hop, but like us, we're in so many different directions at the same time. Hearing some art that causes you to like sit and reflect and be in your thoughts and not in like in more of an explorative way rather than like solution. You know how we are, Doc, just as men, like we're like,
I love that my therapy sessions are now starting to bleed into CRS. This is great. There we go.
It's like, sit down and just explore your thoughts. Like we're always trying to figure out solutions. We're solving problems. We're putting out fires. Right. We're just doing like, household, husband, like leadership. We're just doing the things, right?
Yeah.
And this album, like really, and the conversation that has come with it, I think is so important for people to just stop and get out of grind culture and be present. And it had to come from within hip hop. This is in the hip hop section on Apple Music.
It shouldn't be.
I love that.
That's
absolutely
insane.
Should be, because then it begs the question, well, what is hip hop?
Well, right? This is not hip hop, and that's okay.
Why? Why isn't this hip hop?
Well, for starters, there's no rapping. I think that's a definitive part of hip hop.
But I don't think rapping has to be. I don't think rapping has to be present for it to be hip hop.
You don't think so?
No. No,
I kind of think it does.
I think hip hop is a lifestyle. Hip hop is a mindset, and it just comes. And as it's growing, this is the first time that we're at this age. Hip hop is 50. What does hip hop do at 50? You know what I'm saying? Like what does thinking of an example. Like, okay, so maybe somebody who's in a fraternity. This might be a bad example. So somebody who's in a
I'm sorry.
fraternity or sorority or something like that. Like they're always in the frat. They're always in the sorority. They may not be like, some people when Atomic Dog comes on, they're gonna do the dance, right? But like, if they don't, does that mean they're not in the frat anymore? No, they still got it branded on. They still rep all that stuff. It's just, I think hip hop is so. We're now exploring like, what does it mean to be hip hop? I think this is so very hip hop. It's a call for people to question and get outside of what is traditionally hip hop. Absolutely. That's why I think it's important because it creates space for us to have a conversation and explore and get into something outside of what is normally presented. And I think that's so important.
And see, I was coming at it from a complete opposite angle, which is labeling this as rap or labeling this as hip hop puts rappers in a box that they can never get out of. It means that no matter what you do, you will only be doing hip hop. I actually think, to me, it's far more powerful if it's like, no, actually, Andre is just going to make woodwind jazz music. That's what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the right category. And that's all good. Because he can do whatever he wants. He can make whatever kind of music he wants and no one's going to stop him. You know what I mean? Like, because otherwise, I don't know. I think you get into the problem of like, it's not so much like what is and what isn't, although that is sort of an issue, but it's like, I don't know. Otherwise you run into the problem. It's like, okay, well, if this is hip hop, then is it that, well, cause he was once a rapper? Is it just cause he's is it because he's a black guy? I know that's not what you're saying, but that's what some people might say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It becomes to me, it becomes a cage, right? And I think you might be saying, well, the whole point is it shouldn't be a cage. It should be expansive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like hip hop is just so, it has the opportunity to be so vast. It's so many things. For some of us, for some people, it's a religion, it's a lifestyle, it's so many things. So I don't necessarily. I think it's a cage when you say it has to be defined by these things. It is beats and rhymes and graffiti and breakdancing. Like, who's more hip hop than Andre 3000? Who's more hip hop than the Dungeon Family? Just the heart and the spirit behind what they create. That's hip hop. And that's why I think the last song, what was the title of it? Something about the dungeon or something like this. Like, this is birthed from that. This is the spirit of that. I think that's what makes it hip hop.
To me, I mean, the takeaway from the album and the takeaway from his interviews and this little press, not even a press run, just like what everyone's talking about, is how much he's rejecting what I think like he still thinks that the only way he can be Andre the rapper is like the late 90s, early 2000s concept of what it meant to be a rapper. What that lifestyle looks like, what it takes to release and promote and tour and all the whole, like, he wants no part of that. But like, that's not, everything has changed in music.
Absolutely. 4 times over.
Right. If he doesn't want to do any of that, like, he doesn't have to do any of that.
Agreed.
He could literally not be signed to any label. He could make whatever raps he wanted. He could do it himself. He could sit there and upload those records and put them out in the world and sign off of social media and have a nice day. Like, there's a million ways to be a rapper. It's not like the old days where you either were unsigned, indie, or major. Like, there were very few things you could be when Andre came of age.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that way anymore. But like, I think he's in his own head. I think he's overthinking all of this. And that's fine. We all get in our own heads from time to time. But like, I think he just has a particular, and he talks about it in the interview, right? Where he's like, he does not want the rap lifestyle. And it's like, what even is that? And to me, like the whole conversation about like as hip hop gets old, what does that mean? Part of it means, yeah, you probably don't want to be doing the things that you rapped about when you were 25, and you probably don't want to be living that lifestyle. But like, it doesn't have to be that. Right?
I
Like to me,
agree.
the expansiveness of hip hop growing is like how you can have on the one hand guys in their 50s making raps, and on the other hand, you can have kids who are 13 years old making raps, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but like I the whole part where he was talking about how like what's he gonna rap about, like that he's got to get a colonoscopy or whatever, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, or I don't know, you could rap about your relationships, you could rap about your worldview, you could rap about how you are handling the passage of time, your family. Like there's a million things to rap about, but he's just so locked in on what he thinks it means to be a rapper, which is ironic because it's not like he's been trying to rap about all the raps that he's done over the past 10-15 years. It's not like he's not like living off of like old drug tales or anything like that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's not like he's that kind of rapper. So I don't know. I think he just doesn't want that lifestyle, which is fine. I don't really, I don't know. Listen, he doesn't have to rap if he doesn't want to. It's sort of sad because it's squandering a gift, but that's his choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that I think the reason why he's in his head about what it should be is because of when he got out,
Yeah.
and he was around for like the transitional period, but he wasn't in it. So
Right.
it would have to be like a Dave Chappelle thing where like I was away for a long time, I came back, and now I'm doing this thing under my own pretense, my own rules,
Right.
So but that takes a level of guts and vulnerability and willing to put yourself out there in order to do that. And I think it's pretty clear that Dre doesn't want to do that. I think that
No, he doesn't.
I think so. I think that there's like a nuance to it where he's not rejecting in the interview. He's not rejecting like older rappers rapping, which is what it sounds like a lot of people are interpreting that as. He literally said he's just saying like I don't know what to do with that. Um because clearly there are many people, including an album that he was just on, that will show you how to rap in your 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Um and I think but I'm looking at like the discography of Outkast. Those records are so creative and so layered and so conceptual that it's very easy for him to get on a record that's already the beat's already
Right.
there, the
Right.
concept is there, and there's just space for you to add to it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why something a verse like Life of the Party can be so great, because it just it's the, like you said, Two Chains and Wayne, it's just the alley oop.
Right.
But I think maybe, and this is maybe an old school think, this is like an old school mindset where he holds the album in such a high regard. He's like, I want this full body of work, and I think that's where the overthinking comes in. But I think the difference is though, and this is why I wanted you to like watch the video instead of like
Yeah.
reading it. Whereas in the past, he sounded very unsure. Like, remember that Rick Rubin interview?
Yeah.
He was super unsure, and that was 3 years ago. He sounds very this is another therapy thing. Like, when you are content with the process, many of us get wrapped in like the process of the process, and that's what we overthink. Whereas like he's like, this is just where I am right now, and I know this isn't the end, and that's okay. He sounds very sure and certain, and that's what makes me like champion and root for him.
Sure.
Turning, getting older. You just turned 40. I'm knocking on 40's door, and it's like, okay, like what's next? What's the future? What does this look like for me? I can relate to some of the thoughts that he's had on a much smaller scale because I'm not one of the biggest artists in the world. Um, so yeah, like yeah, he's walking around playing the flute.
I I wonder for him too, like, on those Outcast projects, it wasn't just like, they would go get beats from people and rap over them. Like by the end of it, they were largely producing or co-producing everything. Like they were
Absolutely.
so involved,
Mm-hmm.
and they were just it was always going. They like never stopped. So like to rev up that kind of creative machine again when you haven't really started it, at least that we can hear, at that level in a long time, it might just not be possible.
Absolutely.
And so like I don't doubt that like everybody's like, yeah, I want an Andre 3000 album. And then but then you have to take it to the next level and you have to say, well, what would you think it would sound like? Or
Mm-hmm.
what would you hope?
Mm-hmm.
Because expecting that after this amount of downtime, expecting him to just be, it's not going to sound, it's not like we're going to get Aquemini 2.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, first of all, that was 20, what, no, that was 25 years ago.
25 years ago.
Right. So like, that's just not happening.
Absolutely.
It's impossible to expect it to happen. Um, so like, you know, what if, I think like if he came out with a project and it was like him rapping over, let's even just say there were really good beats from like a lot of like producers that we know, I think
Mm-hmm.
people would be like, what is this? Like, I think, you know what I mean? Like the idea of an Andre 3000 album that we never got is so seductive because we
Mm-hmm.
can all make it in our heads sound as amazing as we want it to sound.
Shout out to
And like
Andre.
he has to live up to that, which I just don't think he wants to,
No,
which
he
I
doesn't
don't
want to.
blame him.
Yeah, I don't think he wants
I
to.
don't blame him.
He's said as much.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that smoke. Absolutely. So yeah, I want my hope is that this opens up more conversations for people to have. Like even with Jeezy, like Jeezy's rollout is, therapy and, talking about his traumatic relationship with his mother and some of the things that he experienced when he was younger. Like, you know, let's have more of that, right? The only for many people the only range of like getting older was like 444, and it's like, well, everybody's not a billionaire like Jay-Z and like investing in all this. So what does this look like for older people, um older rappers of this generation? Let's have the conversation and let's make it as inclusive as possible to say that all these things can fit. So if that means that like somebody's playing a wind chime and telling us to like sit down and be present, great. If that means that you're having, in therapy, having conversations, confronting some things, great. I think, and this is how I connected to Drake, is like we've seen that that's what we don't want. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't want all of us after our For All the Dogs review was grow up. You know what I'm saying? So these are the examples. This is the antithesis of like, okay, so Drake gets bullied into making a rapidy rap album. He folds to the pressure. Whereas, God, who's had more pressure to make an album, to make a hip hop album than Andre 3000 and he's been hearing this for the last 15 years. You know what I'm saying? So, and with that, he says, I'm not gonna fold to the pressure. I'm gonna make what I want to make. That's important. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. It doesn't mean I have to love it.
For sure. Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all. I'm not judging anybody
Right.
for, I think, yeah, I'm not judging anybody for not liking it or appreciating or having the same stance. You know me, I just want to throw the thought out and say, have you considered this? This is
Hmm.
important to take into consideration moving forward. Whatever you do with that is your business. And if you just want to keep it music and say this ain't my jam, I don't care. It's fine.
You know what I think is a challenge for rap as it gets older is like how to like we just need some good we need some better examples, I think, of like fun rap songs made by old heads that don't sound like they're pandering to kids.
Absolutely.
We haven't cracked that code yet. Cause like I heard like,
It's a good
uh,
point.
I don't want for old head rap to become either we're gonna like nostalgia bait or we're gonna do therapy on our albums.
For sure.
I can't. I just